Since I ride a motorcycle into work every day, I get a lot of questions about bikes, and especially people thinking about starting getting into bikes come up and ask me for advice. This is quite a strange thing because, well, this is what I used to do with other bikers, so it's strange that the circle has come around, but I get a lot of questions about 50cc's. People asking me, are they worth it? How much do they cost? What are they like on fuel? How fast do they go? I get a lot of questions, and through this I've discovered a lot of the rumours that they've heard. Also, I remember a few from when I was starting, and I thought because there are so many rumours and so much misinformation, especially about 50cc's, but in the whole biking community as a whole, I thought I'd make this video today to clear up any questions a new rider might possibly have about a 50cc. I'm going to try and think of everything that I could possibly think you'll need to know when you're starting to ride on a 50cc. And I'm going to try and do it in bulletins because, well, people seem to like that, and I don't like to waste people's time. Let's start. First off, how fast will they go? This is the most common question I get asked about 50cc's, and it's the most common thing I see people getting wrong. I've seen two extremes of the argument. I've seen some people say that a 50cc can easily make it to 70 miles an hour, and I've seen some people say that they're so slow you can basically run faster. What's the reality? Well, the reality is 40 miles an hour. That is the absolute fastest you're going to realistically get a roadworthy 50cc up to. Now, maybe if you super modified a 50cc, put a 75cc kit in it, it was a manual and you stripped down right to the bone, you could get it to go up to like 60, but I highly doubt it. Another thing to remember is that if you are under the age of 17, i.e. 16, and riding a 50, not only will this be the only scooter you can ride until you reach 17 years old, but you will have to have your bike restricted by speed, by law. Now, this isn't a massive problem because pretty much all manufacturers I can think of, when they sell a 50cc, they sell it with a restrictor as default, and this restrictor will limit you to 29 miles an hour. So that's about as fast as you're going to be able to go. Now, you can go faster than 29 miles an hour, but you will have to be going downhill, and it will be a rare occurrence that you break the limiter. Admittedly, 30 miles an hour isn't that fast when compared to more powerful bikes or cars, but it is a lot faster than you're going to be able to manage on foot or on a push bike consistently. Although I'm sure there is one cousin's friend's uncle that has managed to push their push bike up to 30 miles an hour, but you're not going to be able to do that consistently. This thing will always be able to do those speeds. And as far as for people saying you can run faster than these things, when I was riding a 50cc back when I started on my bike, I got so bored of people saying I can run faster than your bike, I actually challenged someone to run faster than my bike. Surprise, surprise, they couldn't. The next most common question is how much would it cost to buy one? That's pretty simple. If you want to go and buy a brand new 50cc scooter, you can expect to pay about £1,000. For either a brand new or practically brand new one, you'll be able to get a 50cc scooter or 50cc bike, no problem at all for that amount of money. Now, if you want to buy one second hand, I'd say for one that's in usable condition right out of the gate so you could just ride off of it that day, expect to pay about £600. I don't know what the market's like in the US, so I can't comment on that, but you can physically buy 50cc scooters cheaper. I have seen them go for as little as £100, but remember, at this price you are going to have to do some significant mechanical work and there's going to be something wrong with it. So if you are very good at mechanics on scooters or bikes, then feel free to buy one that's a bit damaged, but if you're just an average Joe that wants to buy one that's going to work, £600 for a used one or £1,000 for a new one. How much will it cost to insure one? Well, this depends. For example, if you're a brand new rider, so you have a CBT, you don't have any other licenses, and you don't have a lot of experience on bikes, you could probably expect for a 50, as long as you don't have any crashes on your record, expect to pay about £50 a month, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. Now, this would depend. If you had crashes on your record, this would be more expensive. However, if you've been riding a bike for a long time, for a start, why are you watching this video? But it would be cheaper, or if you had a full license or perhaps a car license on the side, these things would make it cheaper. The longer you've been riding, the longer you've had a license, the cheaper your insurance is going to be. And the more licenses you have and the more vehicles you have, also the cheaper the insurance will be. But as a sort of starting point, I'd say that about £50 to £60 would be what you could expect to pay for your insurance at the start, and that's per month. Next thing I get asked about is fuel costs. I know a lot of these are about costs, and I'm going to try and finish up the costs as soon as I can because they are pretty boring to talk about, but a lot of people want to know about the costs. So, fuel costs to fill up a tank on a 50cc scooter or bike is going to cost you about £5 to £10 depending on the size of the tank. Now, most likely it's going to be about £5 on a 50cc bike. Now, to a lot of car guys, it's going to be unbelievable that you can pay this little money and get a full tank. This is, of course, because the tanks are pretty small on 50cc bikes. Now, the other question, of course, is how far can you get on this tank? On my 50cc scooter, I could do 150 miles to one tank. It is a very small engine, so you're not using a lot of fuel. The final cost related question is it cheaper to take the train? Now, I usually get this from people either trying to talk people out of buying a bike or people that regularly commute on a train. They'll say, well, because it's going to cost me, £1,000 to buy it and about £50 a month to set it up, won't it be cheaper just to take the train? And at first it does look cheaper, but the answer is no, it's not cheaper to take the train. The things that make bikes cheap are average running costs, not buy-in costs. Now, buy-in costs will be high. You'll have to buy the bike, you have to buy all the safety gear to go with it, you'll have to pay a big lump sum when you first set up your insurance, but once you've set everything up, the running costs are going to be low. You have your £5 fuel bills that will get you to most places just fine. You'll have your occasional oil that you'll have to buy for it. You won't have to spend a lot to keep it running day to day. Whereas a train will cost you about £10 a day to take there. That's what I used to pay, as £10 a train ride to get somewhere when I was commuting to college. But with a bike, you could spend about £10 every 6 weeks on petrol, so it is in the long run cheaper to be on a bike. Of course, the natural follow-up question is, how practical are they as an everyday commuter? Now, I did use a 50cc as an everyday commuter for a little bit, and I can tell you they are absolutely fine as an everyday commuter as long as you understand their limitations. Now, for example, if you live in a city or you live in a rather large town or somewhere where you're going to be commuting about 10 to 20 miles, then it's not a massive problem. You'll be able to commute no problem at all, and it won't be a massive difference to commuting in a car. Especially in a city or a town, getting from one end of the city to the other on a 50cc, it won't be any different from being in a car speed-wise, because the cars won't be going a lot faster. Now, if you need to commute across a dual carriageway, or about 50 miles to your work, or you need to go for about an hour's trip, then a 50cc won't be ideal, and you'd be better off getting a more powerful bike if you can. The 50cc's have been called the ideal city hoppers, and that's what I describe them as. They're great if you only need to go around your city. Now, can you go between cities on them? Yes, I have gone 50-mile trips on a 50cc, but they do take a long time. So, they're not ideal for long trips. You can make them work if it's all you've got. If it's the only transport you have, it's better than no transport or taking the train. But if you want something to hop around cities, especially if you're going to university or something and you want a cheap mode of transport for hopping around the city, 50cc will do just fine and is ideal for a commuter. However, if you need to make long trips, like you need to go on dual carriageways a lot, I'd recommend getting a more powerful bike. The final question I get asked, which will also help me to sum up this video, is it not just more practical to buy a 110 or 125 bike when you turn 17 because a 50cc is so limited? Is it even worth getting one if you're over the age of 17? And my answer to that is yes, as long as you understand their limitations. They're not perfect machines, they won't be able to do the same thing the 110 scooter is, and if you need to travel long distances, or you want a bike or a scooter that can do absolutely everything, then a 110 or 125 scooter will do the job, better. But if you are 16, or if you want a scooter just for hopping around cities and you're realistically never going to leave the city, then a 50cc is a very good bike. It really can't get much cheaper when it comes to motorised transport, and they are a lot of fun. Some of my best memories from being on a motorcycle are from my first 50cc scooter. Even though I've spent a lot of time on more powerful bikes and gone a lot further, I still have good memories from that tiny little scooter. And it does teach you to appreciate the power of the bigger bikes. If you start off on the biggest, most powerful bike you can possibly get with your license, then where can you go from there? You won't be able to get a more powerful bike for a couple of years, so if you start off on the smaller one, you will actually appreciate the bigger power when you get to it. Anyway, that's my opinion on 50cc's. I did ride them as an everyday commuter and a fun bike for a little while, and I had a lot of fun. For fuck, I've screwed up the exit.